Hello friends, I am back after a very eventful week, digging around in Vegas and then digging around in Anime Expo. And while one might associate Anime Expo with weeaboos, and Las Vegas with soon-to-be divorced dads who have gambled away their children's entire college funds, I strangely had similar experiences walking around colorful, eclectic environments in the sweltering heat and smelling unpleasant odors. Odors aside though, I had a pretty fun time at both locations. My favorite part about both trips was being surrounded by Weirdcore aesthetic. I'm sure you could guess what Weirdcore entails just based off of the name alone, but for those of you who'd like a more formal definition, Aesthetics Wiki describes Weirdcore as a surrealist aesthetic centered around amateur or low-quality images that have been constructed to convey feelings of confusion, disorientation, dread, alienation, or nostalgia. That's how Aesthetics Wiki describes it, but the cringe internet cynic in me thinks I just like it because it's a slightly updated, slightly darker extension of the oh so familiar LOL random humor I grew up with. And I think that's why I find the content I enjoy so funny, even though I would not be able to explain this to like a normal person. Editing sugar meat here. I didn't see this video until now when I'm almost done editing my own video, but if you want to deep dive into Weirdcore aesthetic, Polygon Donut made a really great, really funny video on the topic, so I totally recommend his video as well. That being said, after watching his video, I feel like I should probably include a little disclaimer. The art collections and artists I reference in this video probably all won't be true Weirdcore, but I believe they're still at least Weirdcore-Adjacent. Either way, I just wanted to show off some of the bizarre stuff I'm into, so Weirdcore or not, enjoy the weirdness. Ooh, greasy hair flip. But anyway, while I was in Vegas, I was able to visit one of my favorite Weirdcore museum exhibits, and that was Meow Wolf's Omega Mart. It was my first time visiting that particular Meow Wolf location. I've been to their House of Eternal Return exhibit in New Mexico, so I kind of knew what to expect, but honestly, experiencing Omega Mart filled me with so much joy that I was like, hey, I should tell all of YouTube about my favorite Weirdcore artists and art exhibits. So here we are in this video. Today, I'm going to take us through 5 of my favorite Weirdcore art collections or artists. And when I say art collections and artists, I will be using that term fairly loosely. But let's start with an actual art exhibit and the place that inspired me to make this video in the first place, Meow Wolf's Omega Mart. So Meow Wolf is an arts production company that has multiple exhibits in several states, specifically in Texas, Colorado, New Mexico, and Nevada, as well as one planned to open in Los Angeles sometime down in the near future, which I am super excited about. I personally love Meow Wolf because the art they feature is very loud and very topical. A lot of it implementing that postmodern absurdist humor, which again is just my fancy way of saying LOL random humor. You caught me, okay? I was just trying to mask my cringe. But I think the exhibits are fun for all ages. Not only is the absurdist art fun for people with broken senses of humor like me, but the exhibits themselves are all interactive, meaning you can pick up and touch whatever you want, which also makes them like pretty fun for kids. In fact, it's encouraged to explore because a majority of the exhibit is reached by exploring and finding secret passageways. The front of the museum is disguised as a quirky grocery store where you can pick up personalized bleach, detergent, sprays, you know, the normal stuff that you typically find at a grocery store. But if you open the doors in one of the freezer sections, you'll find just one of the secret ways to get to the rest of the exhibit. Like I said, super cool to explore. Random story, but when I was walking through the exhibit, at one point, there was an area where we crawled through a small hole, and the other side took us to some cave with like a rope at the bottom of the like rocks. And you're meant to like use the rope to help yourself climb up the rocks, you know? And it was kind of like a one-way situation. So I climbed up the rocks. Granted though, I did it in like a short skirt and clunky platforms. And I'm praying that I do not twist my ankle again because I have had to get helicoptered off of a mountain before, and I do not think a helicopter was about to go inside Area 15. But as we're climbing, my partner just dead stops in the middle of it, and he's like, and I was like, dude, why aren't you going? And he pointed up, and there was like a lady dressed in white, standing at the top and facing a corner. And we were freaking out a little. We were like,
oh god, is this part of the exhibit?
Like, she straight up looked like something you'd see out of like an Ari Aster film. And my partner didn't want to continue at first, but I was like, listen, we are more than halfway. I cannot confidently descend these rocks in my platforms. We gotta keep going up. So we went up, and it turned out to just be a worker playing pranks on us. And that was like a really funny mini heart attack. Okay, but that story aside, the fact that I got to crawl through a hole and climb something at a museum is like actually my favorite thing ever. I feel like an amazing art exhibit will make you feel like you've been transported to an otherworldly place. And Meow Wolf generates that feeling not only with the art that's featured there, but also with how the experience is set up in itself. And that's why these exhibits are my favorite art collections to experience. Another thing I love about the Meow Wolf exhibits is that they follow a plotline within their own universe. Throughout the exhibits, you'll find videos, secret letters, logs, and other art pieces that explain the storyline of their respective exhibit. And as a mega enjoyer of lore, I find that especially cool. Unfortunately, I didn't get to spend as much time as I would have liked at Omega Mart since we had other plans later on that day, so I wasn't able to piece together the lore as well as I did back in the New Mexico location, but I think someday I would love to just visit all of the locations and spend like 8 hours at each location just to piece together lore. Like, hopefully if I ever get to a spot where I have enough money to do that and take off from work, I would really love to like experience all of those exhibits and make a video on the lore of them. Manifesting it. Oh, and one last cool thing about the Vegas location is that they had their own bar and like themed drinks. Here is a short clip of me being like Omega impressed with my cocktail.
That being said, if we're gonna be doing magic here, you need your own personal crystal ball.
Ooh.
So we're gonna give you a big and beautiful bubble. And the best thing about the bubble is she is a dancing bubble.
Ooh, she's twerking. The cocktails were super strong, yet also very delicious, by the way. And my bartender, Kira, was ultra cool and super fun to talk to, so like shout out to her. Anyway, would recommend you visit a Meow Wolf exhibit if there are any in your area. They are extremely worth the ticket price. Okay, the next Weirdcore art collection I'd like to talk about is Catboy Church. I referenced this one back in my net art video a while back, and this does classify as net art, but I didn't get a chance to squeeze it into that video, so I'm squeezing it into this one, because I think this can also be classified as Weirdcore. Catboy Church is a fictional blog project by Blake Planty, also known as _dispossessed on Twitter, and who is also a features writer for Crunchyroll, apparently. Very talented guy. I am absolutely obsessed with his website. As mentioned, Catboy Church is a fake blog where the narrator writes about his traumatic relationships, his growing fascination with catboys, and his love for Bakura from Yu-Gi-Oh! And for Link/Cloud, but like not at all in the way you'd expect from a normal yaoi lover, more so in a way that is akin to a guy who like frequently visits Newgrounds and DeviantArt for specific art. If you know, you know. Now, I won't speak too much on the plot of this project, so that way I don't spoil anything for you guys if you want to check it out for yourself. And also because a lot of the content on there is very NSFW and very sensitive. So please proceed with caution if you want to check it out. I would not recommend checking it out during work. But anyway, I find this fake blog to be very fascinating because as someone who's been a long-term internet dweller, I feel like I know the narrator. Like, I feel like I've seen this narrator before after reading a really unhinged fanfiction on fanfiction.net. And when I say unhinged, I mean like where all the reviews of that fanfiction are along the lines of, "Hey buddy, what's wrong with you?" Or, "I think you're actually sick, please seek help." I feel like, based on my own experience growing up traumatized and meeting other traumatized individuals, yeah, a good portion of people engaging in really weird and unhinged content and ideas are people with unprocessed trauma, just like the narrator. I just think it's such an interesting portrayal of one of the ways people cope with trauma, and overall, I love this project for being so unique. This project can easily be found by just looking up Catboy Church, but also I'll leave a link in the description for any of you guys who want to check it out. But speaking of cats, the weird next artist I want to highlight is Syriac. Syriac is a relic from the early days of the internet who has very impressively stood the test of time. He's still active on YouTube and raking in millions of views. He's known for producing really zany music and making these really bizarre, trippy animations that often have this smooth, infinite loop nightmare quality to them that would probably trap you in a bad trip if you were on any sort of hallucinogenic drugs. Like the one that we're seeing now, he's responsible for some of the oldest things you can find on the internet, like, for example, this looping gif of someone catching an apple. Or, more famously, if you're on the internet or watching Adult Swim in like the early 2010s, his video, Cows and Cows and Cows. There's really not much to dissect here, but he's just a really talented artist. You can visit his channel for more really hypnotically disturbing sequences in music, or even his Twitter if you want some fun looping gifs. Okay, and the next weirdcore art collection I absolutely adore is Avavav. Now, I use art collection very loosely here. Avavav is actually a fashion brand that makes ridiculous looking clothing, like these monster boots. You may be familiar with Avavav from their viral spring 2024 fashion show, which showed off their No Time to Design, No Time to Explain collection. During that fashion show, models ran out onto the runway in a panic, some of them still putting on their clothes as they walked, and some so frantic that they were unable to pose for a shot. Many of the designs were unfinished, with the notes for the designers still on the designs themselves. This fashion show was probably the most famous one, but all of Avavav's fashion shows are pretty much like this. For example, their fall and winter show in 2023, which showed off their Fake It Till You Break It collection, featured clothing that tore off of the models as they walked down the runway. In the 2024 fashion show in Milan, the attendees, spectators, fashion show watchers, were provided with literal trash to throw at the models while they walked down the runway. I think they also gave the attendees some like alcohol before they started the show, but I can't really find the source anymore where I read that from, so like, you know, take that with a grain of salt. But yeah, the models got trash thrown at them while an endless scroll of hate comments directed towards Avavav played in the background. Now, if you're thinking that this seems more like performance art rather than actual fashion, you'd be correct. Creative director of Avavav, Beat Carlson, often talks about how her shows are criticisms of the fashion industry and how they're meant to reflect the challenges, pressures, and frustrations young designers face today. And the 2023 show that we witnessed was meant to critique the overconsumption and fast fashion that is so commonplace in fashion today. If you've never seen the original Spring 2024 fashion show video, I highly recommend doing so. I didn't realize the show used just really unhinged music, and I feel like it just adds to the entire thing. Many people criticize Avavav, saying that Beat doesn't take fashion seriously and that the treatment of the models is unethical. But at the same time, that's kind of the point behind her whole project. Well, I mean, not to treat models unethically. The models had fun and consented to all of this, but rather to criticize the fashion industry for being so serious and pretentious. And I think she does it in a really entertaining and interesting way, and I can't wait to see what her future shows will bring. Okay, now the last weirdcore artist I want to talk about. Okay, well, they're not really an artist per se, though I do consider their content to be art, but it's Starzy on TikTok. Look, I don't even have TikTok, okay? I refuse to download it because I've gone on this long without having it on my phone. And I do not want to get sucked into doom scrolling and making myself mad because I already do that plenty with the 2 social media apps that I use. But the first time I ever saw them was because someone had reposted their videos onto Tumblr. And let me show you a bit of the video I saw.
I'm in the river and I'm having a baptism. But anyways, I'm in the river. I hope there's like, I keep hearing like voices, but
listen, there is so much going on here. The absolute slay makeup in the river, the baby doll baptism, La Llorona in the background. Like, girl, I cannot tell you how often I quote, I'm in the river and I'm having a baptism. Look, I don't know who Starzy is. I don't even know what their pronouns are, so I default to they, them. But I am absolutely obsessed with their lifestyle. They drink out of a bedazzled hamster water bottle. They grab onto frogs so fearlessly. And they have a wicked collection of Polly Pockets, dolls, and other cursed objects. Like, I wish I had the courage to live like them. I feel like they are the embodiment of like modern day weirdcore. Like, do I feel disoriented watching their content? Yes. Do I feel dread when I watch their content? Absolutely. Girl, look at her. Does it fill me with nostalgia? Absolutely, yes. So many of their POV videos, especially these ones where you get to play as mermaids, remind me of my childhood and playing with my cousins when I was growing up.
You're like the poor mermaid and I'm like the rich mermaid.
Oh, okay, but we're like friends though?
They also made this weird kid POV that is so LOL random. But as I was watching it, I realized, oh my god, that was and still is me. Guys, I hate it. The LOL random never left my veins. That weird kid who gives you gifts that like you don't want or need, that's me. Like, I don't know if you could see that. I always carry around these little those Jesus cake babies. I carry these around in my purse. You know what I do with them? I hand them out to people I vibe with at the club or bars. I cannot tell you how confused everyone always is to receive one of these babies. And it is like my favorite thing about handing these guys out, because everyone's so fucking confused and they don't know what to do. I've had a couple of dudes I met, I've had a couple of them ingest these guys because they thought I was offering them drugs. It's plastic. Why would this be a drug? And with that, guys, that was my weirdcore list. What did you think? Do any of those artists or art collections seem interesting to you? Or do you have any art projects that you think are absolutely weirder and think I would enjoy? Please let me know in the comments below, especially if you have other weird content, because I am always on the hunt for weird content. And if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. And with that, hope you have a nice day. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. I almost forgot to mention that I picked up this little friend at Omega Mart. I love him. He's like a spray bottle shaped like a giraffe, and my cat thinks it's a real spray bottle, so she always gets scared whenever she thinks real water is gonna come out. I don't know why she thinks that. I've never sprayed her with a water bottle. Anyway, I think he's cute. Okay, thank you. That's all.